And so appreciate the reference to National Treasure and Nicolas Cage. It's both a great thing for libraries and also a strange things for libraries, especially the Library of Congress. People come in and say, where did Nicolas Cage do X, Y, and Z? And we're like, sorry, that was a fictional movie, but we'll do a National Treasure tour for you. Thanks for joining us. I'm Natalie Buda-Smith, Library of Congress. Just wanted to give you an intro. Why AI in libraries, archives, and museums? As we mentioned, our national libraries are national treasures. There's 5 national libraries in NARA. Most people don't know that there's 5 national libraries, and I always try to promote them. One's at the USDA, one's Department of Transportation, one's Department of Energy. There's the Library of Congress, the National Library of Medicine, and NARA. And they are really large resources of data, records, documents, and more data, and more data, and more data. And also, one of the values of our national libraries and libraries in general is subject matter expertise, not only in the materials that are there, but also the people who are there. Often you'll have librarians who have a deep history in a particular subject, and one of those subjects is information science. So librarians have, and those that work in archives and libraries, have been working on information science problems for a long time. So we're very familiar with information structures, ontologies, et cetera, et cetera. So these items, subject matter expertise and information structures, are even more important today than they ever were before. And so I call on you to, if you do work in an agency with a library, a museum, or an archive, call on you to connect with them and really see what they can offer for you. As we know, a lot of these large foundational models are trained on data and information that's scraped from the web or scraped from the internet, scraped from particular resources. And so there are some inherent problems that libraries can help solve. One of those is the historical data. So a lot of foundational models are not trained on the breadth of historical data, and that's one of the challenges we have in libraries and archives, is the lack of deep historical reference, and also the deep expertise, which a lot of our libraries and archives can offer. Again, I'm Natalie Buda-Smith, Library of Congress, Director of Digital Strategy. I'm here with, that was my introduction, I'm here with Jill and Dan, and so I wanted to start with an intro. So if you could, tell us about yourself, what you do, and what is your current priority?
Hi. I'm Jill Riley. I'm the Digital Engagement Director at the National Archives in the Office of Innovation. And I particularly work on the online catalog and the metadata standards and authority files. I've been at NARA was there earlier and came back 3 years ago, so for about a total of 11 years, and I have 20 years of federal experience at some other agencies, including Library of Congress. And one key priority right now for us at NARA is definitely about leveraging emerging technology to enhance the customer experience, to increase access to our records, and improve the search and discovery experience so people can find what they're looking for. Thanks.
Yeah, and I'm Dan Wendling from the National Library of Medicine. Been there about 20 years now, and working in web analytics and customer experience and web accessibility, and been working on 2 recent Gen AI pilot projects. One is for web accessibility suggestion service to make your pages more accessible. And I also worked with the customer service folks, and we set up a chatbot that helps them answer customer questions.
Great, thanks. And first question, how are libraries, archives, and museums approach to AI different than other federal agencies or other groups and agencies? And I'll just start with, I often describe the Library of Congress as a metadata paradise, and I know that a lot of federal agencies have, like, that's something that they're working through, is how do I structure or get more metadata? So Dan, do you want to start with that one?
Yes, I think librarians, all the librarians I've met, really love metadata, and they get into the taxonomies. Our library has something called the MESH, which is medical subject headings, and we have ontologies as well, which is kind of a mutually exclusive, collectively exhaustive way to look at the world, and that's just kind of how we act, I think. So we're good at that kind of stuff. And it appeared in knowledge management, where a lot of librarians went into knowledge management when companies first wanted to start creating structures for their data.
Great. And I'll just add on agreement about metadata at the National Archives, and also just for us the importance of digitizing and making more and more records available online. So over the last few years, we've been describing, we have more than 32 million descriptions of records, and then we have added more than 300 million pages to the catalog of digitized records that are available open access, and are great sources, and a lot of those are textual, and then a fair number of photographs, and some are audiovisual materials and graphs.
I love hearing those numbers. They're just so huge. So the next question is since our libraries, archives, and museums are seen as having artifacts that are authentic and trustworthy, how do you balance between, especially in the world of AI, between risk and innovation? Jill, do you want to start?
Sure thing. So risk related to AI projects is something that we discuss at NARA on a daily basis, and we're really being very mindful about transparency related to our use of AI. There's a lot with risk and trust related to the authenticity of our data and what we're sharing, and so being able to disclose and make it clear to the customers and the researchers what is AI generated and what is contributed by a partner or a citizen or is from NARA and the agencies is really important to what we're doing.
Yeah, so for our customer service project, for the chatbot that helps our customer service agents answer customer questions, the pilot that I did this summer was we created what's basically a product recommender. So the first idea was, let's go into the CRM system, the customer relationship management system, and train our model on these actual customer questions and the actual staff answers to those questions. And we couldn't do that, no way, in 3 months because of the PII issues. We just wanted to stay away from that kind of risk. So we created a model that's trained on the public-facing data already. So there's safety in that. It's fast, it's safe. Now maybe we could go into, let's vet some of these cases that are in the CRM system, and maybe we can bring those into our model. So
that's a great example, and makes me think of at the library, one way that we've done it is we often think of AI as generative AI and chatbots that generate language that someone interfaces with. But as we know, there's sometimes quality issues depending on how you implement it. At the library, what we've done is also explore the use of AI for more than just generative AI. So in the workflow, so using natural language processing, for example, to make a AI-generated decision to, for example, who may get the assignment, or, for example, how it may move to the next step. And that can really showcase how to use artificial intelligence in the workflow to become more efficient without necessarily have the risks of generating something that might not be of quality. So if you haven't tried to use AI for in the workflow processing, that's a really great first step. Okay. This is similar and kind of attached to that. When it comes to AI and data, what is the biggest misconception people have about libraries and archives and our data? Jill, do you want to start?
Sure. One misconception that comes up is that sometimes research will say to us, everything in the archives is true, so this is going to be a great data source. But the records are full of opinions and information that is changing over time and a variety of perspectives. So Not everything that's written in every document is true, but we do provide context, and we stand for what is a snapshot in time of when this record was provided and created, and contextualize that. And so we stand for that authenticity, but everything in the data set is not factually true.
It's one phrase has stuck with me for the past 6 months or so, and that's sometimes there's a belief, garbage in, gospel out. Every data science class I've ever taken has been garbage in, garbage out, garbage in, garbage out. You have to understand this concept. But, there's a lot of cool stuff going on, and people saying, this kid's really capable. But the data that you train on is really important. So.
All right. Speaking of data, at the Library of Congress, we manage, it always changes, but I think the last count was about 186 petabytes of data. So libraries and archives and museums, but definitely the archives, we have a lot of data. We manage a lot of data. So how is your organization managing an exponentially increasing amount of data?
Yeah. So we've been really having to address the platforms and the systems and our strategy related to storage and how we transfer content, and we're continuing to look at scale. So we've been modernizing a lot of our platforms and streamlining the connections between them with APIs and cloud-to-cloud transfers, and also really looking at making sure that we can scale, because we're on a path to get up to 500 million pages in the catalog. And so we're planning ahead, and we've modernized both our front end and back end catalog systems and the entire platform to try to prepare for the future and what's coming.
Yeah, and we have what I would view as 2 levels of work going on right now. We have huge systems that are AI powered, such as the Lit COVID system of literature on COVID, and the PubMed Medline database, which we have to index 100,000 scientific studies per month. So we're trying to change some of the assignments of controlled vocabulary to those records to automated indexing. It's a system called MTIX, if anybody's interested, that automatically does some of this indexing for us. And there's human in the loop and all that sort of thing. But that's real production systems that have already been deployed. And then we have things like I'm working on, which is just in the pilot phase. Let's try to move knowledge through the organization about what this is and what it does. So I did my 2 projects, and now on the internal wiki I'm posting the videos, and this is how this project was put together, and this is what we had to think about when we started this, and little videos about using a custom chatbot to solve your problems like web product owners have, like I want to do a SMART goal that's specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. You can use a chatbot to walk you through those stages, and it can help you. And so those are the kind of the 2 levels, way up, and we're trying to spread knowledge.
And at the Library of Congress, we are definitely spending more time refining our strategy for managing data. We preserve a lot of data. We also present a lot of data. And we spend a lot of time thinking about, on a spectrum of what's hot data to cold data, so hot storage to cold storage, what types of access are, and how often we need to access that data, how often people will want to use it in systems or just have access to it. And there's more refinement in what data is assigned to hot data storage versus a colder or frozen data storage. And we have a whole group that investigates and thinks about the processes for that, and also spend some time thinking about what is the future of data storage when it comes to the cold and frozen, because sometimes we want to preserve data for as long as human history, if not past human history. So we may preserve data that we're getting in either one of these ranges of types of data access. And it's funny, we have a perennial joke at the Library of Congress that we have people often predict, like, what's the future of data storage? And it's always tape, 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 tape. It's still the best way for us to store and have access to our data, but we do use other methods like flash and cloud and et cetera, et cetera. But speaking about, thinking about innovation, libraries and archives have been technical innovators in the information sciences for a long time. Can each of you kind of share an example of what type of innovation may have had a major impact?
Sure. Thanks, Natalie. One example from the National Archives of Innovation has related to the crowdsourcing that we've done in our catalog. We have a citizen archivist and contributor community that have added more than 13.5 million tags, comments, and transcriptions. And we've really built on that innovation and the success of that to set us up to do some more innovation on the AI front and with humans in the loop. And so one example is the 1950 census. When NARA launched that site, it was our first public-facing use of artificial intelligence, where we had worked to train the AI OCR tools to identify and extract names and places from the 1950 census forms and read that mid-century handwriting. And so when we launched in April of 2022, we were able to share a searchable index of the 1950 census on release day, which we had never been able to do before, to more than 6 million pages. And the feedback from the genealogical community, from the research community, was particularly positive about the way that we were very transparent. These AI machine-generated tags and extracted names were labeled as such, and then anyone could sign in and clean up or correct or add additional transcriptions of names. And the user community really appreciated that transparency and the showing the value add there. So, thanks.
Yeah, and I'd like to mention two things briefly. The lit COVID system that I mentioned, what they're trying to do is index documents, scientific studies on any aspect of COVID, vaccine research or treatment or prevention or anything about it very quickly, because when this hit, the articles coming into the database would not come in as a full record. They would just be like in the back of your term paper if you do a bibliography, name and title and such. And it would take 3 months sometimes for the indexing terms to come in, for them to be retrievable. And this team figured out with AI, machine learning, and things to make that literature directly retrievable as fast as possible, very fast. And so that was one of our things we're proud of. And also we have now a data set catalog. So if you go into a traditional library and you see the books there, there's a catalog of the books. We have a catalog of data sets. So biomedical research and many kinds of scientific research, 80,000 data sets cataloged so far, and this is we're using Gen AI to do this, and a lot of different facets to it, but data sets can be huge in themselves, and we're making the catalog of these huge data sets.
I love those examples, especially of how AI and other emergency technologies are helping us give access to very large amounts of data. In line with that, thinking about libraries, archives, and museums, our main use cases, or the ones that we know more than any others, are really digitization, preservation, and access. So I just wanted to see if there are any other ways that the archives and NLM are using emerging technologies when it comes to digitization, preservation, and access.
Yes, absolutely. So at NARA, we're looking at our AI use cases and developing testing and evaluation projects that will lead into pilots across the whole records lifecycle, from the transfer of records and upstream description and digitization through preservation and then an online access. So we are exploring and doing research projects that are at those various points, and we are using some tools to evaluate AI-assisted description and search experiences and AI-generated summaries, and exploring on that front. And the staff at NAR are really eager to learn and happy to have the opportunity to test and evaluate these tools.
Yep. So NIH is our parent. At National Library of Medicine is one of the 30 or so institutes and centers at NIH, and we are kind of the library for NIH and their grantees and things. So we also have a very large website with over 200 named products. And one of the things I'm trying to do is what I call putting a roof over all silos. So can we look from the top down and tag all our resources in a correct way so that my customer service chatbot, we can figure out which resource to put in next and next and next. Maybe we want to focus on a topic. Maybe we want to focus on a specific resource that hasn't been in. So how do we make those kinds of decisions about putting a roof over all silos and making it accessible, available?
I like that metaphor, putting a roof on all silos. All right, one more question, and then we'll see if we can take questions if there are any. If you could share one piece of advice for the use of AI, what would it be?
I would say at this point in time, it's really important to exchange information and share lessons learned, and to share data sets when possible. So I think that there's a lot of potential value in that, and that we can collaborate and have more opportunities to work together to accelerate innovation.
Yep. I'm a big fan of codeathons, visathons, hackathons, because it gets people together who have different skill sets, and they hopefully can sit in the same physical space and watch each other work, because you learn a lot. I learned a lot sitting next to a data engineer. I didn't quite know why he was so slow. Oh, wow, that's pretty complicated. I'm not gonna, I understand now what that's about. And if the person who has the business need can sit next to these other roles, what are the ways we can make that happen? And one of them is these like short 1 or 2 or 3 day events where everybody sits around and you can see what everybody else is doing. And at the end, you come up with something that hopefully is helpful for the business. That we've been operating in a kind of a substandard way for a while, but let's just all get together. We'll get 6 of us and we'll work it out over a couple days, and then it'll be much more efficient in the future. So do those.
That's great. And I think for me, it's similar. It's subject matter expertise. And again, to cycle back to the beginning, libraries, archives, and museums have a lot of great subject matter expertise. So when you're working through something and it's not generating the specific outcomes that you're looking for, it's not of the quality that you're looking for, connect with others. But also, if you do have a library or an archive in your agency or in your organization, that could be a source of subject matter expertise as much as people. So that's something for you to explore as well. So thanks for joining us. But I wanted to see if there's any questions from anyone. We try to cover a lot. So, but if there's any questions, we're happy to field. It's hard to think of one. Sorry. The 2 that came to mind for me, and then Dan can answer, is one, momentum from an organizational point of view, and the other is quality outcomes. Because libraries, archives, and museums are seen as a source of truth, or at least a source of authenticity, sometimes when we use AI, it has to be of quality to align with the trust that people have in us. So those are the two things.
And the reason that I went upstairs the last session to do the roundtable on AI governance was because I was not understanding quite how everything happens from the top to the bottom of the system. I'm in the bottom of the system looking up. I'm trying to run this model and getting it going. And we had a 3-month pilot, and it took a month and a half to pass through all the stage gates to even have the model up. So that was my biggest recent challenge, that it's very complicated and we have to be safe. But what I want to do is make it like I walk into the fast food place and I say I want a number 8. And that includes the fries and the kind of burger that I want and the drink that I want and whatever. Is there going to be a way for the governance people say, oh, you're getting into customer information? That's really risky. What you can do, here's like the 3 things you could do if in your situation, or, you know. I'd like to see more of that.
We have one in the back.
Hi, great panel today. Quick question for y'all. Obviously a lot of management of data going on, and we all understand how important that is to get to the Gen AI outcomes we want. What I haven't heard too much yet of is master data management, which can be a key component of this. And MDM means different things to different people, but what I'm talking about is being able to create a golden record, if you will, of a person, place, or thing, correlating, matching data, making sure it's of high quality. So you have that golden record across an organization for your own use, and as well as your constituents and users of your various sites and libraries. So maybe just a quick comment. Are you taking a look at that capability and automating that capability as you grow and mature? Thanks.
I'll start. I think MDM is different for different organizations. So in general, libraries, if we're thinking about master data management, the first thing we think of is preservation data. So we are charged with, preserving the Constitution, preserving these really important documents important to American citizens in our country. And so we tend to think about that golden record when it comes to preservation. And as I mentioned, we have strategies for preservation that includes thinking through as long-term access and long-term preservation as possible, so that people can get at that data, but we have to protect that data. So while some organizations may think of, for example, customer or patient or patron data as being the core part of their MDM, libraries and archives think about the preservation of these artifacts that we're trusted to preserve. And so we do have strategies around preservation and data management when it comes to that, and it tends to involve multiple copies. And as I mentioned, hot to cold to frozen storage of this data, and the verifiability, the validation that the data is intact. And hopefully that was kind of aligned with what you asked. I don't know if either of you want to speak to that.
Yeah, I'll just add on about, in the testing and evaluation efforts we've been doing, we've been looking at hand-curated data and golden data sets and ground truth materials. And we've also been leveraging that crowdsourced content as well, so the hand-typed transcriptions to inform and improve what the OCR generation and the extraction of those entities is. So we've been exploring a few different ways to have that high quality data to inform the testing and evaluation and training.
And in terms of calling things by their right names, NLM has a project called a Unified Medical Language System, which attempts to combine through a meta thesaurus over 200 medical vocabularies. So a pharmacy will use a different vocabulary than a clinic, than a, some other part of the system. And we've attempted to create an atom that is what the proper name for each concept, and then tie those concepts together. So I'm not sure that, I don't have high enough knowledge to maybe answer your question, but that kind of work is going on, I think.
Was there one more quick question? Did you have a quick question? Okay. All right. Okay. Well, thank you very much. Please connect with us on LinkedIn. Please reach out to your library, archive, and museum. And thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you all.